All right, let's dive into some fascinating spiritual waters today. We're doing a deep dive into Alan Kardec's The Gospel According to Spiritism.
Oh, a classic.
Yeah, if you're into Spiritism, this book is well, it's foundational, right?
It really is.
But even if you're not super familiar with it,
Right.
we're going to break it down
Yeah,
and see how these ideas can apply to our lives,
absolutely. It's amazing how relevant some of this stuff still is.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you wouldn't believe this was written like over 150 years ago.
No, you wouldn't.
The way Kardec interprets Jesus's teachings
Yeah,
through this spiritist lens,
right.
we're not just talking about faith here, it's about understanding the spiritual world and like
Yeah.
how we connect to it.
Exactly. And one of the things that really stood out to me was how Kardec interprets that whole seek and you shall find idea.
Oh, interesting.
He doesn't just say it's a nice saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He connects it to this like universal law
Okay.
of labor and progress.
I see. Yeah, that's right.
So it's not enough to just, sit around wishing for things to get better.
Mm.
We have to actually like roll up our sleeves and do the work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's saying.
He's saying that God wants us to, use our intelligence
Huh?
to put in the effort
Okay.
to solve problems, to make discoveries,
Yeah.
to advance civilization.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here for a sec.
Sure.
What about people who are, born into difficult situations?
Right.
People who face like systemic disadvantages.
Yeah.
Does this mean they're solely responsible for their lack of success?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a very complex question, and it's
Yeah.
one that Kardec acknowledges.
Okay.
He does emphasize personal responsibility and effort,
Right.
but he also recognizes the influence of past lives.
Okay.
Now remember, reincarnation is a key concept in Spiritism
Right.
and the societal structures we're born into.
I see. So he's not saying that we're like blank slates when we're born.
Exactly.
We come into this life with baggage, so to speak.
Yes, baggage from previous lives
Right.
and baggage from the society that we're born into.
Okay, so it's like we're all dealt a different hand,
Uh-huh.
but we still have the agency to play those cards
Right.
to the best of our ability.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nuanced perspective
Yeah.
that recognizes both the limitations and the possibilities of human agency,
Okay.
but ultimately, Kardec believed that each lifetime
Mhm.
is a step
Right.
in our spiritual evolution,
Right.
a chance to learn, grow, and contribute to the progress of, well, humanity as a whole.
Now that's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah,
Reincarnation. So all those like challenges and triumphs we go through,
right.
they're not just random events.
Yeah.
They're actually opportunities
Yeah,
for our souls to evolve over multiple lifetimes.
yes. And that evolution, it's not just about like being a better person.
Okay.
It's about gaining a deeper understanding
Yeah.
of the universe and our place in it.
Okay. I want to dive into that a little later.
Sure.
But first I have another question for you.
Okay.
Jesus talks a lot about not worrying about material things,
Yeah.
right? Consider the lilies of the field and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But Kardec seems to say we shouldn't just sit back and expect miracles.
Right.
How do we reconcile those two seemingly contradictory ideas?
You've hit on another fascinating point.
Okay.
It's not about being passive.
Okay.
It's about trusting in a higher power while taking action.
Okay.
God gives us the tools,
Right.
the intelligence, the resources,
Uh-huh.
but it's up to us to use them.
Okay.
It's like a collaboration.
So, okay, maybe God didn't like hand us a fully furnished apartment,
Right.
but we've got the blueprints, we got the tools,
Huh.
and we even got some helpful neighbors to get the job done.
Exactly. And just like those helpful neighbors, God might not hand us the solutions directly,
Okay.
but maybe we get a sudden flash of inspiration, a new idea,
Uh-huh.
or we stumble upon the resources we need at just the right moment.
Right, at the right time.
It's a subtle but powerful partnership.
This is starting to click for me.
Good.
It's like that saying, God helps those who help themselves.
Uh-huh.
We have a part to play,
Yes.
and divine providence, or whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
is there to support us along the way.
Right. It's not about saying, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here and meditate and wait for good things to happen.
Oh.
No, it's about being active,
Okay.
using our gifts,
Yeah.
and trusting that we're not alone in this journey.
So it's a balance
Yeah,
between action and faith.
exactly.
Not either,
Right.
but both hand.
Yeah. And this idea of balance is really key to understanding Kardec's interpretation of Jesus's teachings.
Now, speaking of balance, I was really intrigued by what Kardec has to say about material possessions.
Hmm.
He seems to suggest that getting caught up in the pursuit of wealth can be, well, a distraction
Yeah.
from our true spiritual purpose.
Absolutely. And, you have to remember that Kardec was writing
Right.
during a time of like immense social and economic change.
Mm-hmm.
The Industrial Revolution was in full swing,
Yeah.
and they were grappling with new ideas about wealth and progress.
It's kind of like today, right?
Exactly.
We're bombarded with messages telling us we need
Yeah.
the latest gadget, the bigger house,
Right.
the perfect Instagrammable life.
And it's so easy to get caught up in that chase,
Yeah.
thinking that more stuff will equal more happiness.
Right.
But Kardec reminds us
Mm.
that true fulfillment comes from something deeper.
Okay.
It comes from cultivating our spiritual selves
Yeah.
and connecting with something larger than ourselves.
So is he saying we should all just give up our possessions and live like monks?
Not necessarily. It's more about detaching
But,
from the idea that material wealth is the ultimate goal.
okay.
It's about recognizing that things are just things.
Okay.
They can be useful, they can bring us comfort,
Uh-huh.
but they shouldn't define us or become like the center of our lives.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But realistically, how do we navigate that
Right.
in a world that's so focused on
Yeah.
material success?
It's tough,
Yeah, I mean, we all need to pay the bills, right?
of course. Kardec isn't advocating for poverty or neglecting our responsibilities.
Okay.
It's more about finding that sweet spot,
Okay.
that balance between taking care of our needs
Uh-huh.
and not becoming slaves to our desires.
So how do we do that? Where do we even start?
It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Being mindful of
Yeah.
the messages we're consuming,
Right.
the values we're internalizing, and the choices we're making.
Okay.
It's about asking ourselves, is this purchase really going to bring me lasting happiness?
Right.
Or is it just feeding my ego?
So it's about being intentional
Yes.
with our spending
Uh-huh.
and recognizing the difference between what we need
Right.
and what we simply want.
Exactly. And it's also about cultivating gratitude
Yep.
for what we already have.
Yeah.
Often we're so focused on what we lack
Uh-huh.
that we forget to appreciate the abundance that's already present in our lives.
That's such a good point.
It is.
It's so easy to get caught up in that I'll be happy when mindset.
Yeah.
Always striving for something more.
Right.
But maybe, just maybe, true happiness lies in appreciating the journey,
Yeah.
not just the destination.
Beautifully said. And that's really at the heart of what Kardec is trying to convey. It's
Yeah.
about shifting our focus from material accumulation to spiritual growth.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that our true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in who we are and
Right.
how we connect with the world around us.
This is making me think about something else Kardec talks about.
Okay.
How Jesus told his disciples to travel
Yeah.
without any possessions,
Right.
relying on the kindness of others.
Uh,
That seems pretty radical, even today.
it was definitely a radical idea. But remember, it's not just about the literal act of traveling light.
Right.
It's about cultivating a spirit of detachment from material possessions
Oh,
and learning to trust in something larger than ourselves.
that's also a test, wasn't it?
It was.
A way to distinguish
Yeah.
those who were truly charitable
Uh-huh.
from those who were only concerned with their own, like, comfort and security.
Excellent.
So it really forced them
Yeah.
to rely on the generosity of strangers,
Right.
to step outside their comfort zones
Uh-huh.
and experience the world in a completely new way. Now, how does that translate to modern times?
Right.
Most of us aren't wandering preachers.
Right.
So what's the takeaway here?
That's where it gets really interesting. Kardec suggests that the deeper lesson here is about how we approach our own beliefs and ideas.
Okay.
We shouldn't try to force them on others,
Right.
but rather seek out those who are genuinely receptive.
Okay.
It's about respecting people's autonomy and finding common ground through persuasion and kindness.
So instead of taking heaven by force, as he puts it,
Yeah,
it's about taking it by kindness.
exactly.
Yeah.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly polarized,
Yeah, totally.
that's a really important message.
It is.
How do we navigate disagreements without resorting to aggression or judgment?
Right.
How do we engage with people who hold different views while still respecting the right to believe what they believe?
It's like we're all on our own spiritual journeys, right?
Yes.
And we need to like respect where everyone else is on their path
Exactly.
instead of trying to drag them onto ours.
Right. And instead of trying to drag them onto our path,
Yeah.
we can offer a helping hand,
Uh-huh.
a word of encouragement, or simply a listening ear.
This is all reminding me of something else Kardec talks about.
Okay.
And it's this powerful analogy.
Okay.
He used it to describe the rich and their relationship to wealth.
Uh-huh.
He compares them to people who have a lot of seed.
Ah, yes. A very thought-provoking analogy.
Right. He argues that the wealthy have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
They can either hoard their wealth,
Yeah.
letting it rot away like unused seed,
Right.
or they can share it,
Okay.
planting it in fertile ground where it can multiply and benefit many.
Yeah, he's not demonizing wealth itself.
Okay.
He's challenging us to think about how we use our resources,
Mm-hmm.
whether they be material, intellectual, or spiritual.
So it's not about like guilt-tripping people who have money,
Right.
but it's about encouraging them to use their resources wisely
Mm-hmm.
and for the greater good.
Precisely. Kardec believed that true prosperity comes from sharing,
Okay.
from recognizing that we're all interconnected, and that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others.
This is making me think about like our current economic systems
Right.
where there's so much emphasis on individual gain
Yeah.
and competition.
And that's where Kardec's teachings offer a powerful alternative vision.
Okay.
He challenges us to imagine a world
Uh-huh.
where cooperation and sharing are the driving forces behind economic activity.
A world where abundance is seen as something to be shared,
Yes.
not hoarded.
Exactly. And that's not just some utopian ideal.
Right.
Kardec believed that the earth has enough resources for everyone,
Oh.
but only if we practice justice, charity, and love.
So it's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Yeah.
From competition to collaboration.
Precisely.
That's a radical shift,
It is.
but I think it's one that we desperately need.
I agree.
So often we're told that the only way to succeed is to
know.
climb over others, to get ahead at all costs. But what if true success lies in lifting each other up?
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's a message that resonates deeply with Kardec's vision of a more just and equitable world.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here.
There is.
We've covered so much ground already,
We have.
from seeking and finding
Yeah.
to the importance of effort
Uh-huh.
and the dangers of getting too caught up in material possessions.
Absolutely.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
There's so much more to explore in Kardec's The Gospel, according to the Spiritism.
There is.
But maybe we should take a pause here
Okay.
and let our listeners, digest all these incredible ideas.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into Kardec's wisdom.
All right.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We've been exploring some really, really fascinating ideas from Allan Kardec's The Gospel according to the Spiritism, and I'm eager to keep diving in.
Me too.
Before the break, we were talking about how material possessions can be a distraction
Yeah.
from our true spiritual purpose,
Yeah.
and that got me thinking about Kardec's idea of taking heaven by kindness.
Mm.
It sounds beautiful,
Yeah.
but what does it actually look like in practice?
That's a great question, and one that I think resonates with a lot of people today.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in a world that often feels so divided and contentious,
Right.
this idea of approaching spiritual matters with kindness,
Yeah.
it feels more relevant than ever.
Absolutely. So if we're not supposed to take heaven by force, what's the alternative?
Right.
How do we share our beliefs and values without being like pushy or judgmental?
Well, Kardec believed that true persuasion comes from within. You can't force someone to believe something they don't.
Mhm.
Instead, he emphasizes the power of leading by example.
Okay.
When we live our lives in alignment with our values,
Uh-huh.
showing kindness and compassion to others, that's what truly inspires people.
It's about walking the walk, not
Yeah.
just talking the talk.
Right, exactly.
But what about when we encounter people who have like completely different beliefs than our own?
Right.
How do we navigate those conversations
Yeah.
without getting into like heated arguments?
That's where the real challenge lies.
Okay.
And where kindness becomes even more crucial.
Okay.
Instead of trying to convert someone to our way of thinking,
Right.
we should strive to understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
Ask questions, listen actively, and try to see the world through their eyes.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
Yes.
But that can be really tough,
It can.
especially when we feel strongly about our own beliefs.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember
Yeah.
that we don't have to compromise our own values
Okay.
to engage in respectful dialogue.
Okay.
It's about finding that common ground, those shared values that
Yeah.
can connect us despite our differences.
This is making me think about how polarized our society has become.
Yeah, it's true.
It seems like everyone's retreating into their own echo chambers,
Right.
afraid to engage with anyone who thinks differently.
That's a real concern.
Yeah.
And I think Kardec's teachings, they offer a powerful antidote to that kind of division.
Okay.
He believed that true progress,
Yeah.
both individual and collective,
Right.
depends on our ability to communicate and collaborate,
Right.
even across ideological divides.
So how do we do that? How do we bridge those divides
Right.
without compromising our own beliefs?
It starts with recognizing that everyone is on their own journey.
Okay.
We all have our own unique experiences and perspectives
Yeah.
that shape our worldview.
Uh-huh.
So instead of trying to force our beliefs on others,
Okay.
we can try to meet them where they are,
Right.
offering support and encouragement without judgment or imposition.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier
Oh, okay.
about Kardec's belief in reincarnation.
Yeah,
How does that tie into this idea
right.
of taking heaven by kindness?
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
If we view each lifetime as a step on a ladder of spiritual progress,
Okay.
then we have to acknowledge that everyone is at a different stage
Yeah.
of their journey.
Okay.
Someone who vehemently opposes our beliefs might simply be at a different point
Right.
in their spiritual evolution.
So instead of judging or dismissing them,
Yeah,
we can try to understand their perspective and offer them compassion and support.
exactly. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every individual,
Okay.
regardless of where they are on their spiritual path.
Okay, I have to ask, this all sounds great in theory,
Right.
but how do we put it into practice?
Yeah.
What are some concrete steps we can take
Uh-huh.
to cultivate this spirit of kindness and understanding, especially in a world that often feels so hostile and divided?
That's a question we could spend hours unpacking.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with cultivating self-awareness.
Okay.
We have to be honest with ourselves about our own biases and judgments.
Uh-huh.
Are we truly open to hearing other perspectives,
Right.
or are we just waiting for our turn to speak?
So before we try to change the world, we have to start by looking inward.
Precisely. And then we can practice being more mindful
Okay.
in our interactions with others.
Right.
Listening more than we speak,
Uh-huh.
choosing our words carefully,
Right.
and seeking to understand rather than judge.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is, but it's the most important work we can do. And it's not about being perfect all the time.
Right.
We're all going to make mistakes,
Sure.
but it's about making the effort
Uh-huh.
day after day
Yeah.
to embody these values of kindness, compassion, and understanding.
Okay, that's a challenge I'm willing to accept. Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about something else that struck me in Kardec's writings.
All right.
Remember that analogy we were talking about earlier,
Uh-huh.
where he compares the rich to those who have a lot of seed?
Yes. He uses this analogy to illustrate the responsibility that comes with wealth and abundance.
Right. He argues that the wealthy have a choice.
Yeah.
They can either hoard their wealth, letting it rot away like unused seed,
Right.
or they can share it, planting it in fertile ground where it can multiply and benefit many.
Exactly. He's not demonizing wealth itself,
Right.
but rather challenging us
Uh-huh.
to think about how we use our resources,
Okay.
whether they be material, intellectual, or spiritual.
So it's not about guilt-tripping people who have money,
Right.
but about encouraging them to use their resources wisely
Uh-huh.
and for the greater good.
Precisely. Kardec believed that true prosperity comes from sharing, from recognizing that we're all interconnected,
Yeah.
and that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others.
This is making me think about our current economic systems,
Right.
where there's so much emphasis on individual gain and competition.
And that's where Kardec's teachings offer a powerful alternative vision.
Yeah.
He challenges us to imagine a world
Uh-huh.
where cooperation and sharing
Right.
are the driving forces behind economic activity.
A world where abundance is seen as something to be shared,
Yes.
not hoarded.
Exactly. And that's not just some utopian ideal.
Right.
Kardec believed that the earth has enough resources for everyone,
Okay.
only if we practice justice, charity, and love.
It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from competition to collaboration.
Precisely.
That's a radical shift, but it's one that I think we desperately need.
I agree.
So often we're told that the only way to succeed is to climb over others, to get ahead at all costs. But what if true success lies in lifting each other up?
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's a message that resonates deeply with Kardec's vision of a more just and equitable world.
I'm starting to see how all these ideas we've been discussing,
Yeah.
seeking and finding, taking heaven by kindness, using wealth wisely, they're all interconnected.
They are?
They point to a way of living that's more compassionate,
Yeah.
more just, and ultimately more fulfilling.
That's a wonderful insight.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the core of Kardec's teachings, which is that true spirituality is not about dogma or ritual,
Right.
but about how we live our lives,
Yeah.
how we treat others, and how we contribute to the betterment of humanity.
It's amazing to think that these ideas were written over 150 years ago,
Yeah.
yet they feel so relevant to the challenges we're facing today.
Absolutely. And that's a testament to the enduring power of Kardec's work. It continues to inspire and challenge us to think differently about ourselves, our relationships, and our place in the world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Allan Kardec's The Gospel According to the Spiritism. It's amazing how these ideas written so long ago
I know, right?
can feel so relevant to our lives today.
Yeah.
One thing that keeps coming back to me
Okay.
is this contrast between taking heaven by force
Right.
and taking it by kindness.
Uh-huh.
It feels so central
Yeah.
to how we interact with the world,
Right.
not just in terms of religion,
Yeah.
but in like every aspect of our lives.
That's a really perceptive observation.
Yeah.
Kardec is challenging us to examine how we approach, well, not just our spirituality,
Right.
but our relationships, our work, our very way of being in the world.
So it's not about forcing our will on others,
Right.
but about finding a more harmonious way of coexisting.
Exactly. It's about understanding that true power comes not from dominance or control, but from connection, collaboration, and compassion.
This makes me think about how often we try to like fix people,
Right.
especially those we love.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to see things our way,
Yeah.
to make the choices we think are best for them.
It's a natural human impulse to want to protect and guide those we care about.
Right.
But Kardec reminds us that true growth
Yeah.
comes from within. We
Yeah.
can't force anyone to change,
Right.
but we can create an environment
Uh-huh.
that supports their evolution.
So it's about planting seeds of kindness and compassion,
Yeah.
offering guidance and support without judgment or pressure, and trusting that those seeds will eventually bear fruit in their own time.
Beautifully put. It's about recognizing that everyone is on their own unique journey
Right.
and respecting their right to make their own choices, even if we don't agree with them.
It's a humbling thought.
It is.
Recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
Right.
And that's sometimes the best way to help someone
Yeah.
is to simply love and support them as they find their own way.
Absolutely.
And it's in that spirit of love and support
Yeah.
that true transformation can occur.
Right.
Not just for the individual, but for our relationships and for society as a whole.
I agree.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
is there one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think it's the interconnectedness of it all.
Okay.
Seeking, finding, acting with kindness, using our resources wisely. These aren't isolated concepts.
Right.
They're all interwoven, creating a tapestry of meaning and purpose in our lives.
Okay.
And that tapestry extends beyond ourselves
Right.
to encompass the entire human family.
So it's not just about our individual spiritual growth,
Right.
but about recognizing our interconnectedness
Yeah.
and working together to create a better world
Yes.
for everyone.
Precisely. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And as Kardec reminds us, the choices we make, both big and small,
Yeah.
have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
What a powerful thought to end on.
It is.
So as we go forth from this deep dive,
Yeah.
let's remember to seek with open hearts, act with kindness and understanding, and use our resources for the greater good.
And let's never underestimate the power of a single act of kindness to change the world.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through Allan Kardec's wisdom. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light.